All right.
All right, here we go.
You are live.
Welcome to Films in Black and White, everybody. Welcome to Films in Black and White, everybody. How are you all feeling? We are thrilled to be with you today, but you'll notice that I am only joined by one Marcus J. Destin.
We're missing a piece of vanilla.
We are, and I want to just, Marcus, if you'll oblige me, I would just want to try.
Yes.
Quick.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna bring this up just on myself. Just hang in there. Films in black and white. 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 Films in black and white.
Oh my God,
Brian!
Oh
Nope,
my! I can't believe you just did that.
I just tried to summon Brian from the other dimension or wherever the hell it is he might
First
be
of
coming
all,
from.
why didn't you say his name, or at least his TikTok name? That probably would have resurrected him.
Oh, that might have done it better. Yeah, I
Yeah.
probably did it wrong. I don't know. He's probably got. It sounded like he has some work shit he's dealing with. I don't want to pull him out of that because that's my big question about this that we'll get into later. But what other shit are they doing? Like reading the paper and then he's got to get up and show up. But anyway, we are excited to join you. It is the Doug and Marcus show. Throwing it back to the old school days.
Old school. Oh, geez.
Which I'm very excited about. Marcus, how are you feeling?
I'm good. It's a good day to podcast. You know what I mean? I'm excited to talk about Candyman. I have not had time to debrief about it.
Yeah.
So I am genuinely excited to talk about Candyman.
I am also excited to talk about Candyman. Now, for some of you listening, we were supposed to do a viewer submitted movie. We were supposed to watch The Wicker Man starring Nicolas Cage.
But thank God Brian saved us.
But Brian had another commitment, and so we're going to save that for another day. So we will let y'all know when we are going to do our first ever viewer submitted recommendation with The Wicker Man. But Marcus, we have to play a fun game of Catch That Quotable, and this is my chance. This is my chance to inch myself closer. I don't have to compete with Brian, so I can see if I can get myself into that room. But you are in the lead, so I'll let you go first.
For Brian and I am going to hold it down and to keep you from getting closer.
That's what's needed.
That's what kings do. Anybody in charge ever clings to power, they choose to cling to it.
That's true. That's a very good point.
Well, I'm going to have you go first.
Okay.
Yes.
I
fight for your right to party.
I'm gonna. That's exactly what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
So are you ready?
Yes. Go.
Come on, Eddie. I'm paying you well. Does it really matter where the money comes from? It matters to me. I may not make an honest buck, but I'm 100% American. I don't work for no 2-bit Nazi. Let the girl go.
Okay.
I'm going to read this one more time.
Okay.
And I included names in there because I'm not sure if it's going to help. Come on, Eddie. I'm paying you well. Does it really matter where the money comes from? It matters to me. I may not make an honest buck, but I'm 100% American. I don't work for no 2-bit Nazi. Let the girl go.
Damn it. Okay. Who got kidnapped? This is gonna be interesting. I feel like I know what this is, and I've definitely seen this movie before.
Mm-hmm.
If I can at least figure out who is getting kidnapped, it's either somebody's gotten kidnapped or something. Let's go ahead and smash the hint button. I'm not just gonna bask in this for too long. So, what's the hint?
The hint is Rocket.
Rocket. You know, I'm thinking Rocketeer.
Holy
because
shit.
I've seen something about Disney Plus. Something about 30
holy
years.
Fucking shit.
Is it Rocketeer?
You got it right out of it.
Oh my
like,
God.
Bam. Like
this is 2 weeks in a row. That's crazy.
Duck hunted that shit. Like just out of no. You know what? I'm thinking Rocketeer. Like, God damn.
Yeah.
Hey, good work.
You know, that's the original Rocketeer movie, right?
Yep, it is.
Okay. That's what I thought. That's an old movie. I've seen that twice. I think I've seen it twice, both by accident.
Yeah, that movie for me is one of those that's like it's just ingrained in my head, like
Yes.
not the complete movie, but like different scenes. Like
Yeah.
I remember when he finds the rocket pack and he ends up like crashing through a barn and he ends
Yes.
up in the
I remember
hay.
that.
Like I
Yes.
remember those moments about this movie. And I think you kind of alluded to it, like The Rocketeer is getting a Disney Plus sequel,
Mm-hmm.
and it is rumored to be covering a former Tuskegee airman who's going to take the mantle of the Rocketeer going forward. So
Oh,
Disney
that's
working that
okay.
diversity in there.
Disney's making sure they said we won't play about this diversity thing. We're gonna do it. And
Yeah,
they
yeah,
do they trying their best. What's
absolutely.
interesting that the Rocketeer falls in the same category as, and now you got to give me a second here. The guy who played the mummy in The Mummy Returns, he played a purple superhero in a purple suit and in a forest, and he rode a white horse.
Is it
It was
oh
a Phantom, not
shit. No, it's not the Phantom, it's the Shadow.
is it the Shadow? He had a
Yeah.
purple skin type
Yeah.
purple suit.
Yep.
Yes, and he had a ring on, and he rode this white horse. Those two movies fall in the same category for me because I
No,
see
you're
them.
right. It is the Phantom. Sorry, the Shadow
Is
is
it the
the one
Phantom?
with Alec Baldwin. The
Oh, I've never
Phantom
seen
is
that one.
the Phantom is this one. You are correct. It
The
is the
Phantom
Phantom.
is so interesting. Phantom and the Rocketeer are
Mhm.
like two of those movies I can never watch or find on purpose, but I
Right.
always see them by accident.
They just show up.
They
Like
just
nobody
show up.
invited you. You're just
Yeah.
here now. Yeah.
Although I did enjoy the Phantom. So
Yeah.
um,
They are old school. They feel like old school 40s movies that they're
yes.
like, hey, you know what the people are really clamoring for?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to the Shadow? And people are like, who the fuck is the Shadow? They're like, well, Alec Baldwin's in it. You'll find out. Like, what?
Well,
Why?
what's the other one with it's not, there is a movie called Blank Man, but it's Dark Man. You ever seen Dark Man?
No, not at all.
Dark Man, I think this guy scientist gets his face melted, right?
Oh
He
my
then
God. Okay.
develops this, it was like an R-rated superhero anti-hero movie, right?
Yeah.
He goes like basically on this Punisher like killing spree for the people who killed his wife and his family. And he has the ability, he was a scientist who was making faces, so he can take other people's faces and make like a mask, but it only lasted for like 30 minutes because that was like the prosthetic. It started melting off after a while, but his real face was like melted and bandaged and stuff like that.
Like, what if Clayface were like a superhero?
Basically, essentially,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was a dark, I think that was called Dark Man. I don't know why I keep thinking Liam Neeson was in it, but that definitely was probably not Liam Neeson.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
well,
but,
hey, that's fun.
Yeah, that was it. That was good. That was a good throwback. Good throwback. Okay.
I'm happy I could throw that back for you.
Here we go.
My God, you're right. It is. Liam Neeson plays Dark Man.
Oh, was it Liam Neeson?
Yeah, Liam Neeson is in it.
Wow.
Liam Neeson is in it. Frances McDormand is in it. Bruce Campbell is in this. Yeah, this is.
You should watch that sometime.
Okay.
You probably laugh at it now.
I probably would. Oh, and it was directed by Sam Raimi, who's the same one who did the first Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So there you go.
That makes sense. Okay,
Anyway,
here we go.
Continue.
So we meet again. This is dialogue between two people. I'll say this. Okay. So we meet again. Well, I'm not surprised. Guys like you tend to cling to the bowl no matter how many times you flush.
Oh man.
One more time. So we meet again. Well, I'm not surprised. Guys like you tend to cling to the bowl no matter how many times you flush.
Oh, this is like an action movie, and it's like a.
Okay.
Oh, I'm getting like Bruce Willis vibes from the third Die Hard. That is exactly what I'm getting. Like they're standing off in some warehouse and someone's bloody, and that's the vibe I'm getting. But it has that like comedic element to it too. But I can't quite place it. I'm be mad when either way. I'm be mad when I find out what this is because I feel like I know it.
This. I feel like you know this.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna smash that hidden button.
Okay. Here's what I'm gonna give you for a hint. I'm gonna give you the year it came out.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if that's gonna help you or hinder you.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Okay. Actually, I'm not gonna. That doesn't feel fair.
Okay. That's fine.
I'm gonna give you a word.
Okay.
Yukon.
Yukon?
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, Yukon.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus, is this Walking Tall?
No, it is not Walking Tall.
Damn.
Good movie though. That's a great
Yes.
movie. This is Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Came out in 1998. This is the one with David Hasselhoff though.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is
That is
the
a
one with
throwback for sure.
that was so we are on the same page as far as like throwbacks go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
like mid 90s, like we were just kind of taking it back.
Yeah,
That's
for
a
those
good
of you that don't remember, before Samuel Jackson, Daniel Hasselhoff
Yeah.
was Nick Fury, the like eye-patching Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Marvel agent Nick Fury.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all remember that, but go back and look it up.
And if you're ever curious, go back and look at some of the superheroes that they had like back when they first tried to do like Captain America.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk is pretty incredible, but like go back and look
And
at like
Thor.
what Captain America and Thor looked like
Yeah.
back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. They were a joke.
We've come a long way, everybody.
Yeah.
Like,
Even the Fantastic Four, if you ever go and look, if somebody can even find that Fantastic Four original movie,
oh sure,
the live action one, like the old one, like in the 90s, I think it was like terrible. It was terrible.
Yeah, it's yeah, they are all rough for sure.
Yeah.
And you could tell that like even the internet's like trying to bury them, because when you Google like the Fantastic Four, it's like, oh man, we are putting this way far down under the Fantastic Square Four, and then the two with Chris Evans as Johnny Storm.
Fantastic Square Four.
The Fantastic Square Four. So well, that was a great round. I mean, you actually, to be honest with you, Marcus, you are now in the lead. You've officially taken the lead from Brian. You've earned it. You've earned it, and we're really happy with you.
Yeah, yeah.
After all you've been through from the butterscotch soda to where you are now, so
snatching Black History Month for me, I am back on top. Look at us.
That's right.
Black people so resilient.
I mean, I can't comment because it feels weird if I do. But look at you.
There's a nice crisp thumbs up for you.
It's like, hey, yeah,
whatever you feel, I feel.
Yep, that's right. Well, Marcus, we have a movie to get to.
Well,
and as I
want to talk about some news.
Okay, please. Let's get into it.
There's two things, because the last episode of the podcast Spider-Man came out, and we were in a fluster, right?
It was everywhere all at once.
So I did kind of want to get just a quick feeling about how you felt about the trailer.
Oh, sure.
And your initial reaction, and like even maybe like what you think is going to happen right before we get into the movie.
Okay.
So
first off, I need people to understand me as a comic book movie fan.
Okay.
Whatever the loudest opinion is, I'm usually like, yeah, maybe it's that. So like, it hurt me when WandaVision came out, and they kept like alluding to like Mephisto, and even Brian and Marcus had moved on because they're smarter than me, and they were essentially like, Doug, there's no way that's it. I'm like, I don't know, it still could be him, like because they were just talking about it.
Yeah.
So, but my first reaction to the trailer, I'm, to be honest, floored. Like I think that this movie is going to be incredible. Just in its, if it achieves what it does and it's structured the right way and it doesn't get too busy and they don't try to do too much. They haven't put, what I like about this is that they haven't put all the heavy lifting on Spider-Man. And I think that's why Spider-Man 3 was such a challenge. I don't think it was Tobey's acting or even the directing. I think just from a writing perspective, they put too much on Spider-Man to do. And this load seems to be shared by Tom, oh fuck, what's his last name?
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland is going to do a lot of the lifting.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange is going to do a lot of lifting.
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire, you're going to bring in other people to share the burden of trying to do such a complex storyline. So, the part where Alfred Molina says "Hello, Peter" is amazing. I got chills at that. I got chills at Willem Dafoe's like Green Goblin laugh that I was really excited about. So. I'm genuinely excited for this movie, and that hype absolutely took me to the next level. The other thing that makes me excited is they released the runtime of this.
Yeah, what is it? 150 minutes, right?
2.5 hours of just following this. So I'm pretty jacked about what's going to happen. So, what was your reaction before we get into speculation? What was your reaction to the trailer?
For me, I'm excited. I'm excited for multiple reasons. obviously you're bringing back the OGs,
Right.
even in villains and in superheroes,
For
possibly,
sure.
right? We don't know that for sure, but what I'm really impressed with is Tom Holland.
Yeah.
He like the ability to grow as this Spider-Man character. He seems very invested into it, and from the short trailer that this scenario is not an easy scenario, and it's not a
No.
kiddish one,
Uh-uh.
right? He seems like he's battling the world and then some. So for
Yeah.
me, I'm excited about a Spider-Man 3 that will be successful, because
Yeah.
I'm going to claim it, because I do feel like Disney, they figured they have this thing down to a science.
Yeah.
Like they've done so many trilogies, they've told so many stories, they've done so many things
Yeah.
that they're going to get this down. The one thing that I did love, I think for me, as much as I love Doc Ock, and Spider-Man 2 is probably the best Spider-Man in
Agreed.
that Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, I was really excited about Green Goblin and Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
Because seeing that pumpkin like grenade just like roll across the thing, I don't know what it is. It does, like, part of my mind is like, there's a lot going on. There's a black suit, the gold suit. There's so many suits. There's like, you know, you're gonna have Doctor Strange. It's so many things at once.
Yeah.
And so for me, it feels like, is this the ending or wrapping up of a story or the start of a new one? But my initial reaction was, I'm fucking excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited because this is 2.5 hours. That means you're going to take your time and tell this story.
Yeah, you absolutely are. You are not going to rush anything. And that's what the beauty of this is, I think. And I think that this is more like, I think Disney or whoever's putting this put this trailer together, listen to fans, because I think one of the downsides that we've had with trailers in the past is they reveal too much.
Yes.
And you can end up going like, oh, great. So I saw the movie, so I don't actually have to go see it. But with this, it's like that movie was 2 minutes. The movie is 150 minutes. I mean,
a piece of a piece.
You got like less than 2% of this, but you got 0.000 like 2%
and
of
stuff
what this movie is.
Stuff that you already knew. You knew Alfred Medina was in it. You knew possibly, like, anything that was new in this is the lightning strikes, the sand. Okay, so we know. So look, it's like rumors the Sinister Six is going to be in this. We don't know who the sixth villain is, but like we knew Alfred Medina was in this because it slipped. Like, okay, cool. Like we figured it out.
For sure.
So that wasn't a surprise. His look is a surprise, and actually seeing it in action is a surprise, because you're combining these different timelines and universes together into one, of course. But everything else, it was new. Nobody knows what's going on with Doctor Strange. Why is he fighting Peter? Nobody knows why Peter's got a black suit. It's giving us anticipation, and that was the thing that I liked the most.
Right. Yeah. And I think the other thing that there's so many more questions is like, what's going on with the Sanctum Sanctorum? Like, why is it covered in snow? Why is Wong leaving? Like, there are so many questions. And I think we're going to get an answer to the Wong question in Shang-Chi, which is supposed to be coming out this weekend. So I think we're going to see some more pieces of this as we get into this weekend. And we'll be covering that on next week's episode. We'll cover that movie. But here's what I think happens to transition us over to that. Here's what I think happens. And I did, so I've been trying to get into TikTok more, and I did a TikTok this afternoon about talking about the plot line of One More Day. And there is some rumor about One More Day being sort of the inspiration for this. And go over to the TikTok, search Films in Black and White, and watch the full explanation.
You got to go see those TikToks. You got to go see
them. So I think that that's the storyline that it follows. And instead of it being an Aunt May being hurt, I think this is Peter trying to like get out ahead of it and protect Aunt May and Mary Jane before they get hurt. So I think it's going to follow that similarly. I think the elements that aren't there is, I think instead of the universe being shut, I think instead of Spider-Man making a choice to give up his love life in order to be that, I think it's going to be something a little bit like, I think he's giving up everybody knowing that he's Spider-Man from the get-go and basically starting from square one. And I think those other universes are coming into his and he's having to deal with it. But I think that there's going to be a real, I think Spider-Man's really going to have to, I think a lot of people are thinking of home as in like a physical place. I think home is going to be an emotional place. And I think he's going to feel like there's no way back to his idea of what home feels like. He will still be he'll wake up the next day after the events and he will still be in New York, but it won't feel like home to him because the people he cares for will not, they won't be the same as they were when he started
It's
everything.
interesting.
So I think it's going to be interesting to see, but I do think it's the universes are going to collapse on each other in a Nexus event that takes place right there in New York. Like, I think that's what's going to happen.
I think that's pretty good. For me, I wonder if this is going to be a hard reboot for Spider-Man.
Sure.
Because there's been a lot of comments about Spider-Man being like a younger Tony Stark, or
Sure.
With all the technology he has and all this other stuff, whereas the original Spider-Man really just had a suit and kind of did it on his own. So I do think that this movie ends with everybody forgetting. He loses MJ. Aunt May doesn't remember. Happy doesn't remember. And I think that leaves him in a place where he has to figure it out on his own. He has to be his own hero. And that will take us into the next trilogy of movies where you see Spider-Man like figuring it out. Like he's going to graduate from high school. He's going to finish all these things. And it's going to be him as this young adult trying to figure out how to balance all of these things.
Right.
I think the No Way Home, I like the way that you approach the title, the subtitle No Way Home. I think for me, that's for the villains.
Sure.
Because, there's a lot of rumors that Doc Ock, because the eyes were red in the tentacles, he's being controlled by somebody, or the AI is in full control again, because that was the synopsis in the first one.
Yep.
And so, the second one, I don't know how it works, but in the original movies. So I think that somebody's controlling these Sinister Six. They're pitting them against this Peter Parker because they want him dead.
Sure.
I think this is a deliberate attempt. I don't think this is a direct correlation to the multiverses clashing that we see in Loki. Yeah. I think that's kind of like I don't know what you call that when somebody's trying to throw you off the.
It's a red herring.
I think
they call it a red herring, where it's that's it, and then it's not it at all.
I think that's absolute. I think it's a red herring. I think that this was set up, and to be honest, I think that Mysterio could be alive.
Oh, sure.
Somehow, some way, I think that Mysterio could be alive somehow. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah. I think the other element of this to watch for that I think will be really interesting is, like, I think we're going to, and I think you brought this up and made a really good point. Like, you're going to see Peter reach another end of his arc, where I think, and especially because Doctor Strange makes such a deliberate and intentional question of, like, you fucked this up because you're trying to live both versions of this. And I think at the end of this movie, it's not going to be that Peter is going to be conflicted in his choice. I think he's going to make an intentional choice to say,
to be Spider-Man.
I think Spider-Man's more important and is more needed based on where we're at. So I think we're going to see a need that Spider-Man exists going forward after this, and he makes that choice because of those things and is willing to give up, whether that's, Mary Jane knowing who he is, or Aunt May knowing, and basically everybody knowing, because they'll still know Peter. They just won't know.
They won't know he's Spider-Man.
So
which is where a lot of his turmoil comes from in the comic books anyway.
Yep.
And I wonder if they'll do the Uncle Ben tie-in, or I wonder if they'll, finally.
Sure.
They teased it a lot, but they have not hit on it. But I'm pretty sure this is the one we hear where with great power comes great responsibility.
I think you're absolutely right. Yep, absolutely right. But yeah, super pumped about that, and I'm glad you brought it up, because you're right. We were right in the throes of it as things were happening last week. So
it was hectic last week.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's get to this movie.
All right. I am going to take a crack at the barbershop summary this week. Because
everybody's taking my job, huh?
I'm not trying to take your job, just trying to pay homage to the best. I'm not going to be able to do it as good as you, but I'm going to do my damnedest here.
All right, well, come on, let's get to it.
What had happened was,
there you go.
What had happened was, okay, so you have this small community in the middle of Chicago that used to be a project, and a little boy goes down into a laundromat, and he's like super spooky moment, and then a grown man with a hook hand comes out of the wall. He screams, and you're like, I have no idea what's happening. And then you sort of fast forward to modern day times, where a bunch of rich folk, I'm going to make this statement, a bunch of rich white folk, we're going to go back to this later, go into that old project area, essentially spy it up and what's the word I'm looking for?
Gentrification.
Gentrify the hell out of that area, make it really hard to live there. But there are still elements and still pieces of this old community that were there. The project is still there. There's a laundromat that's still there. And this little kid that got scared is now grown up. He owns the laundromat. But we follow the main character, whose name is Anthony. We follow Anthony as he is sort of uncovering the truth as a part of an art project of the urban legend surrounding Candyman. So he goes basically does some digging, some photography, gets stung by a bee. His arm starts basically turning into Swiss cheese, and he starts losing his mind. Meanwhile, because he's bringing so much like fame to the incident, people are taking the risk to do the mirror trick and to actually summon this individual. I don't know why I'm nervous to say the name again. Like he's just gonna fucking show up. But they keep like trying to summon him, and people just get offed like left and right. There's a gallery owner who gets offed. There's an art writer who gets offed. There's an entire high school girl, like 5 high school girls who get I believe the word is murked on TikTok. And so they have all of that going on. And so, just top to bottom, that's what happens. Meanwhile, Anthony is slowly losing his mind more and more and more and more as they go through this. And the relationship issues between he and his girlfriend, played by the lovely Teyonah Parris, is also getting strained as we go on as well. So this culminates with that little boy who now owns the laundry store, the laundromat, basically kidnaps Teyonah Parris, kidnaps Anthony, and says, like, guess what? He's a Candyman now because we need one. And guess what? He's going to kill everybody. And then this culminates in the police shooting Anthony, who is dressed up as the Candyman. And then, that's basically it, top to bottom.
Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head.
Well, thank you.
That was good. Good.
It's not as good as what you bring.
So you covered it. You didn't get.
I'm not going to quit my day job, but you could still give it. But I was glad I was able to give this a shot. So
no, that was good. No, I'm not gonna. We're not gonna beat a dead horse. I did have a realization. I'm gonna give you your fun facts.
Okay.
But I had a realization in this movie, and I kind of want to.
Okay.
I want to bring it up. So go ahead. I'll do the fun facts.
Okay. So let's do some quick little fun facts for this movie. First off, this movie crushed it in the box office. Like absolutely crushed it. It was the top of the box office chart. It collected $22.37 million because it was only available in theaters. It only cost about $25 million to produce, so it's official that you can call this movie a hit. So it absolutely did an awesome job in the box office. This movie, just as a quick rundown, stars Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as Anthony McCoy. I apologize if I said that incorrectly.
Teyonah Black Manta. If anybody needs a reference.
Yep. Teyonah Parris plays Brianna Cartwright. Nathan Stewart Jarrett plays Troy Cartwright. Coleman Domingo plays William Burke. Kyle Kaminski plays Grady Greenberg. The big one that is in this is the original one from the first round of movies. What is his name? I don't want to say his name. Like seriously, I'm trying not to. Also, because why the fuck those kids were like, let's go to school and just look at this right in the mirror and see what happens.
Yeah.
I cannot find the original Candyman's name. Where was it? What is that actor's name?
Tony Todd.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So he's in this as well. So those are your sort of like quick rundown and fast facts about the movie top to bottom. So that's who's in it, and that's how much it's made so far. Like I said, it's only available in theaters currently. So Marcus, what was your realization as I was giving you the rundown of the synopsis?
Did only white people get killed by the Candyman in this?
Yes. There was one scene, and this is where I was kind of, I don't want to say confused. I think it was easy to see a narrative here that that Jordan and his writing team. So Jordan Peele wrote was one of 3 writers on this, but also he produced this as well. But it was pretty clear of the theme that he was kind of going for with this, especially with how it culminated. But most of the deaths that were current in like Anthony's time, all of those were white people dying. The only time I saw black people dying is when they did the flashback to the little boy in the guy who owned the laundromat. They did a flashback where he was in his house and his sister tried it and was killed.
Tiana Parrish's dad jumped off the roof.
Yep, but yes, exactly.
And then the laundromat owner dies too as well.
Yes, he dies too, but it's not from summoning.
It's not from him though.
The only black death from summoning, from the summoning is his sister back when he's a little kid. Okay. And it's almost like it's not like that moment's almost like it's I mean, obviously someone has just died, but I think the other thing that's interesting is he didn't show that death.
Yes.
You heard it, but you didn't see it. You saw the end of it, and you saw, because he makes contact, and he didn't call him Candyman. He called him by his name.
Yeah.
But all the white deaths you saw and were fucking gruesome.
That is very interesting to me, and it had to. So here's the thing. I mean, let's get right into the movie.
Let's get into it.
The thing about this Candyman. So Doug and I were talking about it before. He asked me if I seen the original Candyman, and I have seen it once. But I never watched it again because it scared the hell out of me. So with that being said, this version of the movie, the plot is different on why Candyman is Candyman, I do believe, because I don't think it's the same as the original movie.
I don't think so either.
So basically what it is if somebody dies by the hands of, and it's innocent blood, the way that black people, black men more specifically, cope with it is when they die, they become the Candyman.
Yeah.
And so when they come back, they get revenge on those who, aren't innocent. So he is not a villain. He is more so a ghost of, he's kind of like, if you need a reference, kind of like Ghost Rider. Not good, not bad, but it'll give you the penance stare, and you get what you get because, if you spread innocent blood, like he's going to come for you, basically.
Yeah. Marcus, really quick, a quick search, we did Wikipedia glance at the synopsis of this.
Yeah.
So these 2 movies are more tied together than we think that they are.
Oh, okay.
So the brief synopsis of this, and this is according to Wikipedia, is based on Clive Baker's short story, The Forbidden. The film follows a Chicago graduate student completing a thesis on urban legends and folklore, which leads her to the legend of the Candyman, the ghost of an artist and son of a slave who was murdered in the late 19th century for his relationship with the daughter of a wealthy white man. And the woman in that is Helen Lyle, who, if I'm not mistaken, is the audio tape that he was listening to when he went to the library.
Okay, so they are, and they did say that before that these movies would be connected. So that's no surprise there. I think I don't know. I was not expecting this relevant of a story. I'll say that.
I was not either.
Black. I thought it was just going to be a horror movie. I thought it was just going to be another scary movie, like another version of Candyman was coming back, and like that was it. This one directly said like it really focused on if it was on recent events. Like I almost felt like this should have came out like when George Floyd got murdered, like around that time period, because although the hype, quote unquote, has died down around police killings and all that kind of stuff like that, it's still very much like a thing. And they address it and they take it head on, and they almost paint it as like the villain really is the system and gentrification and the government and white people to a point. So that's how I was taking all of this in. I'm interested to see what you thought once that was revealed about the movie.
So I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I did not see it coming. Like I was not. So I went to the theater and so I don't genuinely like scary movies. So what happens with me is I sometimes put myself on defense and I look past oblivious like plot points that should be really obvious. I'm so focused on like, oh, that shot's really cool, or that's really cool artistic choice, or that thing to kind of like disconnect a little bit. So basically I don't get scared. I was genuinely surprised though when it took the turn and outlined all of the like him as an artist. I was like, oh, okay, like that to me of bringing highlighting the history of the like abuse of African American men in the United States. I was like, oh, that makes sense as an artist choice of medium. Like, okay, that makes sense. That tracks. But when it started to come out that like he was shot in the basement and they didn't even give him a trial, I was like, oh, this is an interesting turn. And even the way the movie culminated with the way that stuff was shot and the cops in Chicago still being particularly crooked. Yeah, there was a lot of this, Marcus, that I just genuinely didn't see coming. And I was kind of excited to see a different layer to it because I think it provided a whole other level to the urban legend about this that I thought was really, really interesting. And I think it was mainly because only white people were the ones that were getting killed. I saw this as much more as punishment than I did see it as dumb people being like, why the fuck would you walk into your house after hearing about this and look in the mirror like and do that? I kind of had that thought on the way home. I was like, who does that? Like, there's no way in my right mind that I'm doing it. And it's just like it's almost like it was saying like, you don't think anything's bad is going to happen to you because of your environment and the way that you were raised. So you go ahead and participate in it, not realizing that for Black people, that terror was very, very real.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
So that to me is where I kind of saw like a different layer to this. And this movie was, Marcus, originally scheduled to come out in June of 2020.
Okay. So that makes for me when I'm consuming this, right? And of course, I'm happy that it's not Black trauma. So for context, I'm watching this movie in Vermillion, South Dakota as a Black man. And I went by myself. And there's a couple other people in the theater. There's maybe like 5 of us, but as far as I could tell, everyone was white. So I felt like as soon as that plot was revealed, my assumption and the thing that I jumped to was like, they're rolling their eyes right now. Because like this is another story that is pointing out what real life is, you know what I mean? But it specifically, it blatantly points the finger at white people and at the system, right? And so
for sure. I mean,
you're going through, I don't know, like I'm going through this whole movie and I'm just like, should I be happy that he's not being depicted like this? Or like, what is it? Like, I know things aren't as black and white, like Candyman is good or bad or whatever. Like, he obviously kills Black people too. If you say the name, you die. Like, that's the rule. It doesn't matter. It's not a race thing. But in this movie, particularly, everybody who said it was white or white passing at least.
Well, and again, even just the choice to show their death is such an intentional act as well. And as you and I are like sitting and talking about this and talking about like trauma and utilizing how to deal with it, I'm going to see if this strikes you or if you see if I'm entirely off base. So if you think about Anthony's character, over time, the more he does research and the more that he learns about like the history of the area and basically the history of how Black people were policed in that particular area, the worse he gets physically. To symbolize, in my mind, if you sit there and you really dive down in this, it will eat away at you and turn you into a shell. And then I think the moment where like realizing and taking and owning your trauma and doing something with it is when Tiona says his name 5 times in the mirror and she doesn't get killed. She says, I am going to own that trauma and use it to my advantage, and use it to break myself out of this situation, which is why I think at the end, instead of killing her, he goes, you need to tell everybody. Because I think it's such an interesting plot dynamic and choice that they made with what was on its surface is a slasher film. Like, I mean, on its face, this is a slasher movie. And I think if you're not connected and you aren't like looking into this like we are, I think you're right. I think it's a very different movie.
It's so, you know, I'd love to see somebody else watch this film that isn't diving deep into it. Like, because we watch this and we're looking for these things. Like that's
Yeah.
the mindsets that we are as podcasters and as movie lovers. Like
For sure.
we're watching this from a completely different lens. But for me, I don't know. This movie was, I think it was good. You know, like
I
we're just
loved
having
it.
a discussion. I think it was good. And that transformation, his transformation was one of my favorite parts of this whole movie.
Oh, for sure.
Because excuse me, because ever since when he got stung by that bee,
Yeah.
it was a slow transition.
Mhm.
He slowly lost his mind. He didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. And like you knew that the laundromat owner was in it somehow.
Yeah.
Teyonah Parris did a great job. Her, like, you got her family, the mom, the story of the baby, and it's like, okay, wait a minute now. This is so many moving pieces at once. How do you accurately tell this story? But somehow they did it, and they made it compelling, and they made it recent. But then my question was, where do we go from here?
Right. Yeah, that's such a good question. Like, it's a very good question. I walked out of this going like, that was really good. And again, it was really good for me of like just the fucking artistic choices with this.
Yeah.
Like deciding to tell history. First off, its use of like camera angle.
Mhm.
Like when you're going by and you are looking up at the skyscrapers, but it looks like you're looking down. That is just such a jarring moment and prompting you to say, you're going to have to look at this shit differently than the way you are in order to get this. And I thought that that was a really cool choice. I love the use of like shadow puppets to tell history.
Oh, yeah, that was
I thought
good.
that was such a cool, like, element and time intensive. And the last thing I liked is the runtime. Like, not that I felt like it couldn't have gone on. It told its story it needed to, and it got the fuck out of there. Like, it was like, this needs to be an hour and 38 minutes. It does not need to be anymore. Did you get it? Okay, goodbye. Like, I hope you got it. And it left. And I just think that, like, in addition to all the things that you talked about, like, I just think that it did such a good job of explaining this stuff top to bottom, and really hitting home. So yeah, I really like this. This was good. I do think I do have some questions. I do have some, there are some moments of this where I don't want to say that it's bad, but I do want to say like I was left with some questions.
I have a lot. I have a few.
Good. Like let's start with yours, because I bet we have similar questions.
There were several stories that were started but not finished.
Oh, sure.
And to me, I feel like, you know, where you're saying that the time was good, I feel like it was, but they introduced a lot and they introduced characters that I felt like were not, the stories weren't completed. His mom, for example.
Yeah.
His mom was calling throughout the whole movie, mentioned his mom at the beginning of it. And I understand that that actress is tied to the original Candyman movie, right? But you know, you introduced her, you only see it once, and she tells the story about how he was the baby that almost got thrown into the fire and blah, 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 whoop-de-whoop. And then that was it. You never see the mom again. You never hear anything else. It was like that was the one scene only.
Yeah.
And so for me, it felt like there was a lot of moments that just did not get completed in full manner or told in full. And I was like, well, why would you start it if you weren't going to finish it?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, for me, similarly to that was like the story of Teyonah Parris's the dad, and even her brother, like that whole family dynamic. I had more questions than answers with that of like why, what is the relationship between the two of them? What is her what is her job and why? Because I think that there's a whole other element of being you know, the art world is predominantly operated and run by white people. So the idea that like she's in that role and what that, plus the deal with her dad being an artist and jumping out. And even when they talk about the art of like saying like, I don't want any of that in my house. I'm not going to put on a show for it. I just want it gone. I just think that there was a lot of elements there that they could have dove more into. But again, I get caught. Like if your goal is to have this allegory of, you know, the like gentrification and the role of white people in, you know, basically policing and its role and trauma that it has inflicted and what that trauma can do to a single person, not to mention an entire community. That's you had to be careful because you didn't want to lose it. So I get it, but I definitely would have liked to know more.
I feel like I feel like this movie originally, if I'm reaching in and I'm probably overthinking it, Tiana looks like she could have been the lead for this movie.
Yeah,
She was the lead, but it looked
yeah,
like it could have followed her
for sure.
instead because it did a first person follow of what is his name? His name is Anthony in the movie.
Yeah.
Anthony McCoy. It did a great job
Huh?
following that storyline from his perspective. I almost would have preferred it if they would have followed it from her perspective as well,
Sure.
because then I would have figured out what the issue was with her father. How
Sure.
did that go down? Why did it go down the way that it did? While she's also trying to maintain this relationship and try to figure out what's going on with Anthony.
Yeah.
Because it kind of felt like her job and stuff was mentioned, how serious it is, how big it is, how big of a deal it is. And I was waiting to see how her art and her job tied into whatever Anthony had going on and whatever,
Yeah.
happened to her father.
Yeah.
We never got there.
Yeah.
The thing with the laundromat owner, like we didn't get a full story. We just got
Right.
he was spooked, and so what? He was inspired by
Inspired by
Candyman?
I kind of saw him as like a conspiracy theorist. Like, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I
Okay.
saw him in that role of like sounds terrible, but it's the only example I can think of.
Uh-huh.
A conspiracy theorist that's rooted in real trauma but sounds like not real. Like
Okay.
back when they initially launched the vaccine, remember there was that like I'm going to get my superpowers.
Oh
I
yes.
felt like he was a living embodiment of that guy to an extreme, almost to like a satirical level of it, of like, we need the Candyman. He has to exist. And so I've made him. And it has to be true. And in order for this to be accurate, in order for this message to get out there, in order for everything to happen, he has to be shot, and this all has to go forward, or otherwise none of this makes sense. And that seems it just seemed like it was an individual doing more harm to a community than good to a community.
Right.
So, and that's not to underscore people feeling a certain way about how they've been treated by the government in the past. That's just my best example of that.
Yeah, because in the end, I get having a ghost of vengeance for Black people,
Right.
which is what it sounds like. But also, nobody is exempt. If you say the name, you die.
Right.
So, like, what are the rules? Like, then maybe that should have been mentioned. Like, all Black people, Black people, he don't hurt Black people, or does he? Like, whatever the case may be. Like, that's something to look at.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I expected Teyonah Parris to die. When she said his name in the car, I was like,
oh, actually, no, I disagree. I didn't expect her to die.
I expected her to die because I thought, because those were the rules, right? Like, you say the name 5 times in the mirror and he kills anybody else in that reflection, right? Like, so for me, it was like, oh, so this guy's going to come in and she's sacrificing herself to like take care of this police officer, only to be like, that wasn't it at all. So I guess I was a little, and that's typical Jordan Peele fashion, right? Like, leave you with a little bit of a head scratcher there at the end. But like, I thought it was really interesting just to take that point with it and to take that tone with it of like, this is the angle that we really wanted to go, and this is where things were at. So
I feel like,
yeah, it was cool.
I feel like I knew she wasn't going to die because it was Anthony.
Sure.
That was like the last little bit of Anthony that was left, and he saw that in her.
Yeah.
Like, and he said something about the innocence of innocent blood. Like, you think you're innocent, but you're not. I think in that situation, she was innocent.
Yeah.
And so she did it because of, I think, maybe the way that you do it, the way that you summon him. Like, if you need help, maybe he pops up like a goddamn ad. I don't know, but like, I'm not sure how he works. Like, 3 stars for the Candyman. But
I also really like this idea that he's like doing his laundry and somebody says it and he's like, motherfucker, like, and he has to like show up. It's like, now I gotta go kill him, or otherwise people will think I'm not real. Like,
because he's gotta stick it to him.
And his Candyman wife is in the other room, like, you don't have to go, you don't know them shit. He's like, no, I have to go. They said it. Like,
I got a point to prove, Barbara.
About that. Yeah. And so, but yeah, that's very good point across the board of like that. Like,
I don't know. It was
the rules.
That wasn't one of the things that was interesting, but Jordan Peele has a style.
Yeah,
he has a style about him, and I think that I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm surprised every time. Yeah. He is telling these stories, and it seems like he's doing a deliberate effort to tell stories for Black people.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be for everybody. And sometimes it's going to be hit or miss. Like Us was a miss for me.
I still
Never
have to see
really
that.
got it or understood it. But Get Out was great, and this
Still have to
this
see
one
that.
was great. So he's like 2 out of 3 for me,
Yeah.
which is good.
If this is my entry point to his
God, you
filmmaking.
didn't see, you're moving backwards.
I have not had a chance. I just never had a chance to get back to it.
You would like Get Out at least.
Us looked too scary for me. Like, if that makes
can see
sense.
that.
Like,
I can see
Us was
that.
one of those of like, oh fuck, there's a little kid involved. I can't do that. Like, it
Yeah.
anytime that there's a kid involved, it freaks me out. Like, adults I can deal with, but children, I really have a hard time with them in horror movies. They just get me a little bit more. But they're both like, the next time I see them available to stream, it's not even going to be a question. Like, it's going to be like, yep, we're watching that. Like,
Because
so
Get Out was scarier to me than Us.
Sure.
Because Get Out seemed a lot more realistic.
Sure.
Like, to me, it was like, this could actually happen. Us was more like, okay, I could see how this would be kind of freaky thriller-y.
Sure.
You know, this may be a little bit of a stretch, but maybe it's like possible at the same time. This movie, though, it did a great job being creepy and eerie. Like, it didn't have a moment where it really let up. Like, you knew what was coming. You knew what the end goal was.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody knew what the end goal was.
For
you
sure.
knew that Candyman was coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's the process of how they got there and the why, I think, was the most intriguing part, because, you know, all these actors and actresses did a phenomenal job. Now, one of the things I didn't understand, and that was a weird transition, but here we go.
No, that's fine.
His art piece.
Yes.
I thought that he had the best art piece in there.
Yes.
Yet everybody bashed like the mirror, and when you opened it, you saw inside of it and saw the pieces. I was like, that's dope as fuck.
That's really innovative. Yeah.
Like, to plan that out, and like I'm looking at the rest of like what I can obviously in the shot. Yeah. And I'm like, y'all are really over criticizing this thing.
Right.
Like, what? And then the lady saying artists are the reasons for gentrification. And I was like, what are we talking about right now? Like, some of it felt kind of forced.
That felt like whataboutism. Like, that felt like that whole thing. And the thing I find interesting about your observation with that is that there was only one person who was of color who criticized the artwork.
Yes.
And it was as he was walking out.
Yes.
Everybody else was white. So I think that was Jordan Peele saying, like, sometimes people aren't going to be able to relate to that trauma because they haven't lived it and they don't understand it.
All skin folk ain't kinfolk.
Right. And so I think
that's the rule. No, that's a serious rule.
I believe that it is. It's just it's funny to hear out loud.
But it's interesting that that's something that's actually taught and instilled to. I'm just as for me as a person of color, growing up, it was a realization that had to be made that all skin folk ain't kinfolk. That everybody that looked like you ain't for you or about you. Like, at the end of the day, and they could have grown up differently in a different lifestyle, bashed it, whatever the case may be, because that guy didn't even know that was his piece of art.
No.
And then when he did find out, what the fuck was he gonna say?
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Like,
it's very good point.
Crazy though, but I mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's a good point to note. And I think that the other thing is that's recognizes a fact that about me is that no one has ever had to tell me that. So that is just an observation of the privilege I've had, where I don't have to have a saying like that, which is why it probably feels weird to like hear out loud.
Well, not even just like it's like everybody grows up differently.
Sure.
In different scenarios, different situations. You can have two twin black people, two black twins, right, and put them one in a suburb, one in like a lower income neighborhood, the hood, the ghetto, whatever it is you want to call it. And nature versus nurture kicks in, whatever the fuck kicks in, and you'll have two completely different kids.
Yeah.
Like, and they'll have two completely different experiences, and one may be for you, one may be against you. For me personally, this is just me personally, no knock to whatever people believe in. All the black MAGA people that were walking around, to me, I was like, oh, well, can't listen to these people. Like the Candace Pattersons and all that, Candace Owens or whatever the case may be. Like, I was like, that person don't seem like it's for me. Now, they, in their mind, they may have in their position a stance of I'm doing this for my people, which is black people, and they're like,
Right.
I want us to be better and released from the chains of whatever, and they feel like that is right, which is
Right.
perfectly fine. Believe in what you believe in. But on the other side, how I view it, how I grew up, that's not how you do it, and you're not
Right.
for me, you're against me.
Sure.
So
That makes sense.
it's just
It's good
interesting.
context to have.
Um,
You were talking though about like the art critics saying like, well, artists are responsible for
yeah,
gentrification.
yeah.
What part of that was a weird sticking point for you?
I think what it felt like was they didn't want to call anybody in this movie racist,
Yeah,
but that was as close as they got.
sure.
Like if like because she said that and she said you like you're kind,
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, she mean black people, and then she's like artists. And I just maybe as because I'm not an artist, I didn't fully understand the point.
yeah,
But like you, there's a lot of situations I was like, well, why the fuck? There's no need for this critic to go into the bathroom and get pressured by this random artist to say the name. Now, curiosity is a thing.
right.
And then oftentimes as we say, who in the hell would do some shit like that?
I said it several times as I was driving home.
we think it
Fuck
we
is
think it
wrong
all
with
the
you?
time. We'll be like, who the fuck would ever react like that? And then we see all of this wild shit happen in real life and in real time, and we're like, oh, there really are people who
Mhm.
believe and think like that. Like that's
Yeah.
that's a thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
for me, it like we think about the high school girls, but there are a clique of girls who may act like that still.
right.
I feel like that's a little bit of a comedy shtick or like a movie point to have like a
Yeah.
group of girls who are the bad girls who make fun of people and shit like that. Like,
Yeah.
okay. But I don't know. The brother was confusing to me.
Oh, I'm so glad you
He
brought
was
him
kind
up.
of annoying. He was annoying to me and confusing.
I didn't understand what his role in the movie was.
Yeah, me either.
I-
Me either.
I didn't understand if he was supposed to be like pushing the plot forward. I don't know if it was a way for us to make sure that like we can relate and that there's an entry point to Teyonah Paris's character. I was not sure what he played, and I just found it kind of like unnecessary.
Yeah,
Like just
super.
wildly unnecessary.
The introduction of his boyfriend, like you introduced a whole couple.
Yeah.
And I didn't really like, yes, that's your family. Yes, you want maybe he's more of the comedic, the comedic person. And he was the introduction to the story of
Yep.
Helen and what happened at that night. And like that's cool and all like that. Like that was great. But you're talking about all this trauma that the son and that daughter went through, Teyonah Parris went through,
Yeah.
and then to watch her boyfriend go through it. You're not telling me there's not flashbacks or any type of, you know what I mean? Like,
or even like understanding or
yes,
like,
yes.
or even the fact that he came at his sister like hard
Yeah.
about the choices she made and
Yes.
not being able to be like, hey, this feels like really similar. Like, are you okay? Like that felt like a weird, their dynamic felt very
Forced.
weird and very forced. That's a good way to put it. It felt very forced and very weird that I was just like, man, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
Like, and it just felt off.
Yeah.
So
No, I agree.
yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. What did you think of the way that the violence was portrayed in this? Like, because that's the question I always ask about horror movies, is because I think especially slasher movies, is because sometimes people call those moments like excessive or over the top. So my thought for you is just like, what did you think of that? Like, what did you feel like it was warranted? Did it make you jump at all? Like, I'm just kind of curious.
It was okay. So first, this new CGI gore,
yes,
is very obvious to me. Now
sure.
my eye catches it, especially growing up watching movies where they used to do the pig blood and they used to do like the prosthetics and all that kind of stuff like that, right?
Yep.
This movie had even his hand, as Anthony McCoy is peeling away, you could see some of the pieces that are CGI and what's like makeup and what's like he's peeling back, and you could see it a little bit. At least I could.
Right.
So for me, in some of those areas, that was the only thing I could focus on, was like, oh God, like look at that CGI. But it was violent. It was very violent and aggressive. And like when the first girl, when they were about to have sex in the little museum thing,
I could talk for the better part of an hour of that whole dynamic. That was the strangest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life.
It was so weird to me. It was so weird to me. But that was also another situation of I didn't know what the rules were
Yeah.
because she said it, he didn't, and he still died.
Right. So that's again, that's a great point of like, well, was he not innocent then? Like, because
Yes.
he didn't, and I guess that's just it. Maybe his criticism and his, I don't know what it was. That's a
But
great
then what
point
did
though.
she do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things in there. Like, of course, it's easy to portray the bad girls in the high school as bad girls because, oh, well, they kind of deserve to die. And the critic is like over criticizing folk, and well, she kind of deserves to die. And then these two, like, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like, it's kind of hard to pick and choose. But the violence was very violent. The worst one, I think, was the critic. When now it was
Oh,
also the
really?
best shot of the film, though.
That shot was I said out loud, I said, that's fucking beautiful. Like
Yes.
that when he walks out and she is just picked up and
Yes.
dragged across
No
and then
sound.
dragged the other way, no sound as
Yeah.
he zooms out. It's like,
Yeah.
fuck, man. Like that was just
Because then you
awesome.
see all the stuff happening on the top, the neighbors,
Yep.
the sides, and it's like nobody knows
Yeah.
and like that. I don't know why, but that one just stood out to me the most, and I was like, you know what? That's crazy. That was
Yeah.
that was this one. So I feel like it was extra. It was very violent. It's supposed to be. None of these killings are supposed to be cute and like whatever. And he didn't take.
No.
He kind of like he got right to it. He didn't waste a lot of time.
Yeah. No, I thought that middle one with the critic was pretty incredible. There was another one that blew my mind that I was like, oh my moments are always like kind of like giggling because I'm uncomfortable, but it's like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And the one like that's literally how I respond, like, oh my God, what is happening? The one where the art critic got hooked in the ankle. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like
I felt that one.
that's why again,
Yeah.
throwing back to like it's weird not seeing a movie in town with you. That was one of those like where if we had seen them together, we would have been like, holy
Yeah.
shit. So
That shit hurt. It hurt me.
oh,
When
it
I
hurt
seen
to
that one, I
watch.
was like, "Ooh, fuck!" I
Yeah.
was like, "That hurts."
Yeah, that was not pretty at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I thought that those were really great. I also thought really appreciated like again to go back to camera angle, like I
Mhm.
really that scene in the bathroom with those 5 girls, man, I really appreciated that camera angle
Yeah.
and looking at that as like when she's in there and looking at the like the makeup mirror that
Yes.
falls to the ground
Yeah.
and she sees him walk by. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like just playing with all of that was such a cool use of space and dimension.
They didn't show their deaths. And I think that was another interesting thing to me was them not showing the 4 high school girls' deaths. Because it's like you choose some, you choose the other, and I guess everybody can only get killed a certain way so many
That's
times
true.
without it being like overkill. But I did think it was interesting. You had 4 girls, and you really didn't show. You just showed a pool of blood that came out of nowhere, and your assumption is, "Ooh, that was gruesome as hell."
That looked like real blood. That looked
Yes,
like
that wasn't CGI.
that looked like syrup with red
Mhm,
coloring in it. Like that
mhm.
looked like real blood. So
But it
and
was
then
a
you
lot.
heard it.
Yeah,
Oh God, you heard
yeah.
it. Like
If I was in that bathroom stall, I would have got up out of there.
well, and
Like,
again, I yeah, that was just I find it interesting that the only one that they showed was the girl who was at the art exhibit. She
yes,
was the only death of those 5 that you saw.
yeah.
So
It's and I wish I could interview somebody from the movie to get it because I feel like there's a deeper something that I'm missing. Almost like I need to see it twice, but I won't. I feel like I need to see it twice to catch something that I missed, but I'm too scared to see it twice. I'm just not gonna lie to y'all. That is just that black. That
you
is
know what
scary.
you know what I want to do? Like, and again, I'm not a big scary movie person. There is a eensy weensy tiny part of me that wants to go back and watch the first one and then watch this one again to see how well they tie together
Yeah.
and to just see if the themes are still there in the first one. Like, because that's, I guess, my big question about Jordan Peele's work is like, not to undercut the man, but like, is this good because he pulled out something that was already there?
Mm,
Like, did he pull out
I see
themes
what you're
that were
saying.
present that nobody else picked up on? Because it's obviously inspired by the original.
Yeah.
So is he just playing with the cards he's been dealt, or did he give a new, fresh, original artistic interpretation on it?
Yeah.
Those are some more questions that I have about where that gets fleshed out. Because
Yeah.
I mean, if so, that movie's almost 20 years old. Like it's to
It's
have
still
that and
relevant.
to pull up on it would make it still relevant and just go to show you where that's at going forward. So
yeah, it was a good movie. It was
Yeah.
a good movie, and I think they had good leads and they casted the right people for these roles.
for sure.
Don't do a sequel, please, because good lord, I'm scared.
I think that's the thing I appreciated about this getting the Jordan Peele treatment is that he's such a purist when it comes to story.
He don't seem like he doesn't seem like he'll do
I
sequels.
mean, if he was going to do a sequel to Get Out, that ship
He would've
sailed.
did it,
Like,
yeah.
not that it's not still relevant. It obviously still is, but
Now, what would be cool was if this was a connected universe, like
That
a
would be
Jordan
cool.
Peele universe.
yeah, the
Like it
Peele
would
verse.
just be it. Maybe not,
I'll
but
just sit in that. That was me.
a Peele-averse.
A Peele-averse?
Sure, whatever it is you want to
Yeah,
call it. Yes, a
thank you.
Peele-averse. But if that was a connecting universe of some
Yeah.
type, like all of these people existing in one background. Now, I know universes and creating movie universes
Yep.
is not super popular with people. That's fine.
Right.
But this idea that all of these things exist in the same kind of time period and
For sure.
they all have acted in the same universe would be very interesting to me, because then that says Black people are in his universe realizing this next layer of what life is.
Yep,
Like
for
it's
sure.
not just this surface level of figuring it out. It's like there's a whole nother what do they call that, like supernatural level to things in his universe. So that would be interesting to explore.
That would be really cool to see
Yeah.
that come out a little bit
Like
more.
if somebody was a collector of stories, or like these all happen in the same universe in the same extended
how many-
stretch time period.
Or I mean, how many of those types of stories exist? I mean, there's
Yeah.
the legend of the Jersey Devil. Like,
Yeah.
I wonder I'd love to see an interpretation of that and how that would go.
Yeah.
Now, he did release a poster for his next movie that he's doing.
What's that?
It was
Why?
yes, it's Y, and it's just a picture of a cloud with a scenic mountainous background and like what looks like something hanging down off of it. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious to see what they do with that. But yeah, I mean, this was good. I enjoyed this. I would definitely, like, if you feel comfortable going to a theater, watch it in a theater. There's something about a horror movie in a theater that
Yeah.
feels a little bit different than a horror movie at home.
Oh, that was the other thing. The audio for this thing, I feel like you have to see it either with a really good sound system or in the theater, because there
Yeah.
are moments where it was like whispering, or you could hear voices, or you could
Yeah.
hear stuff in the background.
The bees.
Yes,
The buzzing.
bees, the buzzing of the bees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that you could hear them clink against a window, like
Yes.
that was just really, and that's where you go back to like that comment you made about it being eerie. He crushed it with the sound of like, I want you to make it sound like a bee is stuck somewhere, but is trying to get out at somebody.
Yes.
Like
A big ass
that
bee.
was such a great choice and so well done. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
I think, I guess to wrap it up, because it's not much. I don't think it's much to say.
No.
I feel like this is one of those movies you're either gonna like it or you're not gonna like it.
Yeah.
And I think that it does well, even outside of the narrative that's painted. I think it does well as a horror movie. Like, it's scary.
For sure.
If
Yeah.
you want something that's scary, go watch it. If you want something that's a little bit deeper than being scary and has another layer to it, go watch it. I enjoyed it, and I'm not big into scary movies. Like, I can do slasher films a little bit more.
Yeah.
But when you start talking
Yeah.
about supernatural stuff like this one, like, this is the thing that scares you the most about this thing. You are the reason for your own death. Like, the rules are simple.
Yep.
Say my name and I come and I kill you.
Yep.
So if there is a situation, like if somebody said that, was like, hey, people are saying this thing in the mirror 5 times and they dying, like, we should try it. I'm like, bitches, you stupid.
Right. That's the
And
thing I didn't understand.
And the thing that kept popping up in my head, Doug, it was the Dave Chappelle skit with he was like, there's always a black guy that'll pop up out of nowhere and be like, hey, nigga, don't do that. And like, that was
5 to 10.
That'll get you 5 to 10. Like, that was,
Yeah.
every time somebody said his name, that was the literal only thing I could think of with Dave Chappelle popping up. Say, hey, don't do that. That'll get you 5 to 10.
Right.
Like, it was
There's
crazy.
nobody there. And that's where I thought the laundromat guy was going to be at first. I thought he was going to be like the old wise character that was like, don't say his name. You're going to
Yes.
have a bad time. Like,
Yes.
it's a real thing. It's very much real. And it just went an entirely different direction. But yeah, I don't know what part of me would be like, hey, Doug, if you turn around 3 times, clap your hands and do 3 quick squats, somebody shows up and punches y'all in the face. In what world?
Why would
I
do
started
that?
in the theater. I started counting every time they said his name. I was like, oh, there's like just counting it to
Quietly.
myself because I was like, oh, that's 5. They're out. Like I just
Like, that's it.
like
That's
just
it.
like up, he's done. Like there's no more of that guy. So yeah, this was good. I definitely worth a watch. I do think that I think what I like about this is that although Jordan Peele does do that, like we're friends. Although Jordan and I were talking,
Peele, you did just name his universe.
I did just name his universe.
Peeleverse.
But what I think I liked about like Jordan Peele's like rendition of this is I do think there is something for people who just want to go and see a horror movie, as well as there's something for people who maybe aren't looking for a deeper story, but who are open to it. Like I
Yeah.
don't think you go looking to see his version of this, but I do think you go and kind of go like you and I kind of being like, oh shit, there's like something else here. And I
Yeah.
do appreciate that it can serve both purposes.
Yeah.
So
I enjoyed it. I say
yeah.
go see it. If you like scary movies, go see it. If you don't, just steer away from it.
Just steer clear because
Just
you're
steer
gonna
clear.
you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
So
You're gonna have a
anything
bad.
else you want to say about the movie, Marcus, before we move on what we're plugging?
No, shout out to Jordan Peele. He's
Yep.
he's being consistent in his style, and he does seem to be getting a little bit more comfortable while
Yes.
in who he is as a producer, and even if that is just a writing credit or whatever, he's doing a great job. The casting he's doing, I'm personally as somebody black, I'm happy that the casting looks the way that it does, that it comes out. The fact that they weren't poor black, like they were significantly wealthy.
Yeah.
And living in a good parts of the neighborhood, but he's tackling these issues like gentrification and all of this other stuff. My favorite line was, the government realized after they built the ghettos, they didn't have to cover up the ghettos after they realized how it was an eyesore. And I thought that was a good line and a good analogy. So
I really appreciate. I really liked that line in there too of like, you tore this down, and instead of like doing anything about it, you brought in all of these white folk to basically fix it for you instead of you having to deal with your own problem. Yeah, I think that's the same line that you're talking about, and I remember that being like, God damn, that is a great way to explain gentrification.
Because it's like, and I think that you can't. If anything's scary in this, it's the fact that the stuff that they're saying is true. Like gentrification is real. That's not nothing that's fake. That's not nothing that's like you see it happen every day, and more people get kicked out of their neighborhoods and stuff. So I like it. Go watch the movie.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say that I appreciated about Jordan Peele is that I appreciate that now he's gotten to the point in his career where he's bringing other people with him.
Oh, yes.
Like, like I do appreciate that he reached out to Nia DaCosta to direct this. And I believe based on my glance here, she has a little bit of some like writing credits and some directing credits, but not a ton. I mean, this was her first movie directing. And so I do think it's really, really cool. Worth mentioning that she was the one selected to direct the Marvels, which is the Marvel movie that's coming out later, working with Teyonah Parris.
And Nia DaCosta was the first black female filmmaker to open pick to a #1 at domestic box office. And shout out to Brian Roush for sending us that.
Oh yeah,
earlier.
Absolutely.
Brian said it like this, y'all. Brian said Black Excellence, y'all, and then sent the link.
Yep,
gotta love Brian.
Look at Brian. We say his name 5 times, see if he shows up.
Well, let's not.
We'll skip it. Because I don't need Brian to kill me with a Nerf gun.
Say to. All right.
Anyway, Marcus, what do you have to plug this week?
Oh, same thing, different day. You know what I mean? Follow the mantra. Follow the mantra on Instagram. Underscore the mantra, but also follow the mantra in real life. Never offended, always humble. That is something that you can repeat on a daily basis. And I promise it won't kill you. Matter of fact, it might make you even stronger. So
I would argue that. I think there's a fine many of people who could use that mantra. What I want to plug is, hey, do you like nerdy stuff that you can put on a t-shirt? Do you like fun wing recipes that'll make your mouth water? Head over to thelovenerds.com and check out the fun recipes that Maggie Roush is curating over there. She's got some great stuff out there, y'all. So make sure you check that out at thelovenerds.com. I also want to plug this podcast. Hey, we have fun turning out this content for you. It's a lot of fun being here. So be a part of the Patty family and go to patreon.com/films in black and white and join the Patreon crew. So, but we have, Marcus, a 3-step process to success. Why don't you kick us off with that first step?
As my boy Brian Roush would say if he was here, he would tell you to read a book. You got to read a book, and you can read an audio book. Don't let anybody judge you or persuade you. Like, you can read an audio book. It's fine. The book is a book. As long as you are reading something, a brochure, a pamphlet, a newspaper, get those words inside your brain. Learn a new word. Go out there, sign up for one of those apps that send you a new word every day and find out what the word of the day is and expand your vocabulary.
For sure. So 100%. Awesome. Step 2, drink some water. Y'all, look, we're going to get out. We're going to do more stuff. And your body needs water to run. It's got a lot of shit it's got to do, right? Like, it's got to do like a bunch of chemical reactions every day. And it needs water to keep those running. So just make sure you drink your water to keep yourself moving and to keep yourself going all day long.
He's not lying. He's not lying.
I am not.
And your final step, listen, I understand it's been raining a lot around here where we are.
True.
That's not enough water to wash your ass, though.
It's not.
You have to get in water, and sometimes a shower ain't enough. Sometimes you just got to get in a tub and soak. And you know what I mean? Like, you just gotta do the Lord's work. You just got to get in there and clean yourself out.
Yeah, and that's between you and the Lord, how you decide to do that. But just make sure you do it and wash your legs. I keep telling people this, not only your ass, but your legs. Look, the water's not going to be enough to clean your feet. Just because you're standing in a shower doesn't mean you're walking out with clean feet. Just wash your goddamn legs. And you got to
wash the towel. You got to wash the towel. Like, after about 2 weeks, change that towel out. Don't just throw it in the laundromat where it'll get all mildewy. Wash that towel. Then wash your ass, repeat.
Yeah, exactly. Wash your ass, wash your towel, repeat. That's the t-shirt right there. Gentlemen, Marcus, this has been a great episode, a great throwback for us. We'll be back next week to review Shang-Chi. So we are excited to do that. Brian will be back joining us. But in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and we will catch y'all next week.
Holla at me.
I'm leaving that in there.